In the 1950s, tensions in the South were at an all-time high. As African Americans clamored for justice and change, others met them with fire. Unlawful arrests and the lack of defense allowed the jails to swell with men, women, and even children as they fought against a system that would not bend. Though events like Emmett Till's murder, Brown versus the Board of Ed, and actions set forth by activists such as the Freedom Riders seemed to be turning the tides of oppression and violence, it was clear that more needed to be done. In 1963, President Kennedy created the Lawyers' Committee for Civil Rights under law.
We are confronted primarily with a moral issue. It is as old as the Scriptures and is as clear as the American Constitution. The heart of the question is whether all Americans are to be afforded equal rights and equal opportunities, whether we are going to treat our fellow Americans as we want to be treated. If an American, because his skin is dark, cannot eat lunch in a restaurant open to the public, if he cannot send his children to the best public school available, if he cannot vote for the public officials who represent him, if, in short, he cannot enjoy the full and free life which all of us want, then who among us would be content to have the color of his skin changed and stand in his place?
Lawyers all over the northern U.S. were sent down south to represent those that had been unlawfully arrested. This is how James Cooper, a lawyer from Atlantic City, New Jersey, found himself in the middle of Mississippi in January of 1966. The bigotry and segregation of the South was jarring to James, his thoughts apparent in the documents where he detailed his time in the South. Went to Dr. Tolmanson, shocked. Office has 2 entrances. 1, reception run. 2, colored entrance. Mr. Cooper's confusion and disbelief continued throughout his notes. His cases ranged from those arrested for not having parade permits as they marched in protest for the right to vote, to cases like Charlie Cleveland, a black man shot in both legs at a cafe by a police officer and then arrested after apparently causing a public disturbance. Police brutality was a constant theme in Cooper's recordings of his cases. Although taking place in 1966, the stories hauntingly mirror the atrocities that African Americans still face today when interacting with law enforcement. Perhaps the biggest concern of these transgressions was the fact that offending children were not tried as such. James notes, juveniles who commit civil rights acts were treated as adults. This sentiment is on the same page as notes on arrests of several individuals for parading without permit, put in max security cells, 2 bunks, 7 people, windows open, took all clothes and gave laxative, 1 toilet, not enough toilet paper, women had slips, night cold. Though not specifically noted, one must assume that at least one of those arrested was considered a juvenile. On February 4th of 1966, Cooper says in his diary-like notes, "The threats and brutality of these people is really difficult for me to believe, and I probably wouldn't if I hadn't seen it myself." Cooper continues these thoughts in a letter he sends to a friend in AC from Mississippi as he explains a current case he is working on defending several men who protected themselves against the KKK. These words so profound that even over 50 years later, a friend of Mr. Cooper's reads them during a dedication ceremony in his honor at Stockton.
He wrote, as the dean indicated, "As you know, I really didn't know what to expect down here. I didn't know whether the news media was blowing this problem up and out of proportion, or whether there was actually a need for volunteers such as myself."
It's clear that even as Cooper returns to AC, he continues his support of the civil rights movement, giving talks in his community and fighting for justice. Though Cooper had passed, in 2018 his daughter Cynthia donated his files to Stockton University Special Collections, where they can continue to be studied by students who wish to pass on his legacy of love and change.
Jim Cooper was a giant in Atlantic City, and those of you who are here might have heard about that, but I'm here to tell you that Jim Cooper was a person who had a strong, sincere commitment to civil rights and social justice.